Alright, so this video today, I'm going to be rebuilding my IGO-W dual coil. You can see I already had it wrapped. I wrapped it yesterday with some 26 gauge Kanthal, but I wrapped it a little bit too hot. I got it at 0.2 ohms, so this thing's firing a little too much for me. I mean, I'm getting used to it, but this is a real juice whore, and I'm not pleased with it. So, I figured why not do this on video, kind of show some of my friends and all of you people out there on YouTube how to do a quick, simple, easy build with 26 gauge Kanthal and still get a nice sub-ohm hit. So my goal today is to try and hit 0.3. So take out these old coils, which is a shame. Man, those things were hitting like a freight train. So first thing you could see, for people that are just getting their IGO-W and are checking this out, or for people that haven't bought it and just want to know, this is your IGO-W. That's all it is. It's this little tiny stainless steel little compartment that holds your wicks, holds your coils. First things first, people that don't know, this is your center post. This is what is going to give you power. This is what's going in. This is your positive. These holes that you see, this one and this one, this is not how they come stock. Stock holes are really, really small. I'd say the stock holes, this little tiny screwdriver wouldn't even fit in there. So since I go with pretty low resistance on my builds, I decided to take this up to 1/8 inch holes. Might be a little too airy for some people, and you have to take long hits when you do this. Some people prefer 3/32. I don't know. I like 1/8. So on with the build, so this doesn't take too long. By the way, this is my K101 mechanical mod. Kind of use this to give me a little bit more room to work. So if you can see, I hope this comes out clear. I really can't tell. It's all done on my cell phone. You can see you have 3 posts. The one in the center is your positive. The 2 on the sides are your negative. The purpose of having the 3 posts is to make it easier to do dual coil builds, and up to quad coil builds. So I'll show you how to do this. My little bag of goodies here. Pull all this stuff out. Not going to need that. I'm going to be doing my build with 2 mil silica wick. I like using silica. I mean, I really haven't tried cotton yet. Cotton, I would think, is probably better for micro coils and stuff like that, but I'm sure it works great with the way that I build these two. I just prefer silica. I can do dry burns and not worry about it. So what I'm going to be doing with this is making small little loops, and since this is pretty thin stuff, I go back over it, so that way I have a nice little 4 lines of wick to work with. Alright, so let's take off a piece of my Kanthal, and probably about that much. Not too much, not too little. If you cut it too short, it's a little hard to work with. So don't worry if you have a little bit extra over. This is not too expensive here. So let's do this again. And the way that I like to build mine is I like my negative post to be under. So this will go on this side. Let's show you. So I'll first try and get it pretty close to this loop here and go underneath, and I'll pin it with my index finger. And it's as simple as this. You just take your wire, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And this stuff's pretty stiff to work with. It makes it a little bit easier. So let's kind of pull this more up to this top loop here. One thing you don't want to do is wrap it too tight. You wrap it too tight, you'll choke out your wick. It won't wick properly and all that good stuff. Alright, so there's that. It's pretty rough right now. We'll work on that and get it situated so it looks cleaner. But what I'll do is I'll kind of push it together, tighten it up a little bit. There we go. That's looking a little bit better. Kind of pop this one out. There we go. I can see just quick little cleanup of the coils. Make sure they're not touching, because that could be bad and cause shorts, and we don't want shorts. Shorts are bad. Some people like to do this and they'll wrap it around a screwdriver or drill bit or something like that, just so they have uniform coils. I mean, this looks pretty darn good in my opinion. So let's run this through. I like giving a little upswing on my wire. It makes it easier to feed it through. So now I'll show you. My long leg of this, which is on the top, will feed through first through the positive, just like that. So now that's in. Throw the negative in there and push it on through. I like pulling it pretty tight to the post. Thing is, you don't want any of the extra coils touching your post. That can also cause shorts. So we'll pull the negative through. So I want to get this a little bit tighter. Use my needle nose. Pull that through, and then bend it off to the side. So I bent it off to the side there. Hold it in place. Let's make this a little easier to work with here. Cut off my excess wick. And you can use just about anything for this. I got little wire cutters that I use, works just fine, but you can use nail clippers, whatever. Alright, so now we got the positive leg here, same thing. Pull it nice and tight, the needle nose. And then this one's really important because you're going to be feeding your two coils. Both of your positives go through this center post. So pull this one off to the side as much as possible. Where's my drip tip? This not only will keep it out of the way, it'll keep it nice and tight because this stuff's pretty thick, but when you run your next leg through, they're not going to be laying on top of each other, they'll be side to side, so they'll both be getting the same amount of power running through. Alright, so there's that. We got our first one. Let's clean this up just a little bit. Cut off the excess here. And then don't worry if your loop goes a little bit over the lip here, because you can just push that down. There's plenty of room inside these IGO-Ws to kind of get your extra wick material in there. So it looks just like that. And I don't like this. Let's clean that up a little bit more. Little haircut there. That looks good. Now let's go on to the second one. Really important when you're making dual coils is you want your coils to look identical, but opposite. They're mirror images of each other. So like on this one here, I had my coil starting on the bottom and then the positive coming through the top. Alright, so on this side now we'll be going through this negative. Same thing, it'll come through the bottom, the positive will come through the top. So what I like to do is point it towards me, so that way I'm working with about the same size and I can judge it a little bit easier. Alright. And perfect. So let's cut myself another little piece of coil here. Or coil, sorry, resistance wire. It should be just about enough. cut off. There we go. Now remember, we're trying to get to 0.3. The reason I'm doing 4 loops, because before I did 3 loops and I would get 0.2. And like I said, I mean, some people might like it. It might be enjoyable for some. It was not that enjoyable to me. I probably could have gotten used to it, but I don't think I like functioning on that low of a resistance, just for safety reasons and all that good stuff. Alright, so there we go with the silica. I'll turn this back towards me and make it a little bit easier for me to see. Now remember, this is our negative. So again, in this little part here, this little single piece, I like to keep on the bottom. Makes it easier to work with. That way you have your loop here and you just cut off that excess. It looks nice and clean. Same thing, we'll start as close to the top loop as possible. Pin it with my index finger and do 4. We got 1, 2, 3, and 4. Again, push it as close up to that top loop so we don't have too much excess spilling off over the side here. Like I said, I'm hoping this looks alright. This is my first time doing a build video, but I've been getting so many people asking me questions about it, and I figured I'd like to do something like this since I've been rebuilding almost every day just for practice. Plus, I just got this 26 gauge stuff yesterday afternoon. I wanted to play around with it and see how my ohms will affect it, since I was using Bacaro flat ribbon wire before, which was good. It was giving me, you know, with the tightest coil I can make, 0.4, which is really good, but Bacaro doesn't necessarily make as much vapor, in my opinion, and you can't play with it and do as many things with it as you can with the round Kanthal. Let's see. Like I said, bear with me here, just trying to get the coils nice and even. Let's match them up. I'll mess with this once I get it all put in. So same thing, use my fingernail and kind of curl it up. And this time my longer leg happens to be my negative, so we'll go in negative first. That one's in. And then we'll go to the positive one. Sometimes this could be a little bit tricky getting that second coil in, especially when you're working with a thicker gauge like this. You really only have so much room. Alright, there's that. So, let's pull our negative in nice and tight, and again, twist it off to the side. That keeps it nice and locked in place. And let's tighten down our negatives now. I want to get it just enough in there. You could pretty much crank down on this stuff pretty well. It's not gonna break like some of the thinner gauge Kanthals and resistant wires. Nice twist. And that way those are in there nice and snug. Alright. Normally I like to have my positive leg a little bit longer. Makes it easier to work with since you got both your coils in your way now, but whatever. This will work. Now, since my other positive is going this way, let's turn my other positive that way. Keep them separated from each other. Right? Right. And this one, now, a positive post. Crank that down nice and tight. You got both your coil or both your wires sitting in there now. Okay. And I made this one a little bit longer, but there's enough room to deal with that. So let's go ahead and cut this. Now let's lift our wires out. Main thing you want to do here, because we're about to test it on the multimeter. Make sure your wires are not touching any of the posts or any of the other wires. You can cut them now if you want to. I don't, just in case I need to pull a little bit through to play with and move it around. Let's adjust the coils. You can see this coil is a little bit looser. Got a little bit more play in there, which I do like, but one thing that's scary is it almost looks like this coil is touching my center post, which we don't want to happen. If that happens, we get a short. So let's kind of pull that out a little bit, make sure it's not touching anything. And we'll space them out nice and even. It's key when building your coils, people. Nice, even coils. The more even your coils, the better it will fire, and you won't have as many hot spots to deal with. You don't want the hot spots. Let's clean them out of the workspace here. You can see this one's a lot tighter. So let's spread these coils out just a little bit more. And this one I might need to give myself a little more leeway here, but see what happens. And remember, like I was saying earlier, you want your coils to be as equal as possible. They should look like mirror images of each other, at least best you can get. Gets easier as you do it, but first couple builds you'll struggle, but it's not too hard. I was a little intimidated by it at first, but now I do this almost daily because I like to learn. Soon I'll be doing some more trick builds. Oh, there we go. Broken screwdriver. That's good. Like I said, this 26 gauge stuff is pretty hardy. Alright. Let's take this off. Put it on the multimeter. For those of you that haven't used the multimeter in the past, or haven't seen my other video where I show how to use a multimeter, I guess I'll do a quick run through this, just to kind of help out all these people so you know what is involved before you get yourself into a multimeter. Excuse me, just needed a drink of water. Alright, so here's my multimeter. Here's your resistance. I'll take it down to the 200. Alright, comes up at the 1. Next thing you do, let's see if I hold it like that, so I can show you. Touch your two legs together. Alright, should give me, oh, you're going to give me 0.3 today? 0.2. Alright, remember that, 0.2, because that is what you're going to subtract from what you read off of this. So, take your positive to your center post, okay? I normally do it like this, kind of hold it in place. It is easier if you have an ohms meter, but you know, you can pick these things up for like $5-10. Then you take your negative, run it right there. There we go. 0.5. So 0.5 minus 2, 0.3. That's what I was looking for. Perfect. So now let's go ahead and take off our excess wire here. Try and get it as close as you can to the post. You really don't want any excess wire. And it doesn't really matter, but it looks better. Clean it up. And less of a chance of that excess wire touching your coils or touching your post and causing some issues. Alright. There's that. Did wrap this one a little too long, but not a big deal. Let's see. Maybe we can get this in there. Look at that. So much room in the IGO-W. Even a bigger loop like that won't cause you problems. I'll just kind of tuck everything in nice and clean. Alright. Let's throw this back on the K101 and give it a little test fire. This is silica, so you can test fire. You can dry fire this. If you are using cotton, do not test fire. So let's see what we got. Go. One looks good. One looks good. This one's firing a little bit hotter. Make sure you disengage your button before you mess with this. I've done it plenty of times where I'm sitting there and it pops. I don't like it when it pops. So let's get this in there. There we go. That looks better. And this one seemed to fire perfect. Let's try this again. Go. Both seem to be firing right on cue. Let's go ahead and throw some juice in here. Let it go. See what kind of hit. Using my Mount Baker's Hawk sauce. That is Hawk sauce. For all of you people out there with an H. It's like a kind of a sweet tart blueberry menthol taste. I like it. It's my first time getting it. It's pretty tasty stuff. If you like your fruit menthol like combos. Alright. Let's give it a nice little fire here. Seems to be working well. Put the top back on and make sure your tops line up with your coils. Or, sorry, your holes. Line up with the coils. You want that airflow directly in there. The drip tip back on to adjust so you can see my pretty face. Hi. I'm sure you're happy about that. Alright. Back up here. Show you the clouds we get off of this thing. Tighten everything up. Pretty nice. So there you go. This fires way better than the .2. If you want to build .2, be careful. It's dangerous. But, you know, it's .3. So this one hits better. It's not as hot. It's definitely not testing my battery like it was before. .2 is a little scary even when you have one of the higher end batteries, which you must have when dealing with sub-ohm. Do not use your basic little batteries. Get yourself a MNKE battery or the IMR batteries. Don't buy a different battery and try and mess with it. You know, there's a couple more out there, but make sure you can do your amps. But there you go. Easy build. Sorry about the long video. This is, like I said, first time I did this on camera. IGO-W, K100, 0.3, 26 gauge for loops. Hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching. Vape on.